Shalom, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. And I also would like to give double honors to the men of GMS, the elders and apostles. And this lesson is entitled True Reparations is Through Our Lord Yahweh Shai. And there's videos going around about this hearing that they had in Ghana. And the topic is around reparations and whether we deserve it or not. But we're going to get into that. I have a couple of videos here. I'm going to let them play. And I'm going to get some scriptures and then we can go through it.
The only three countries to vote against this resolution: Israel, Argentina, and the United States. Gabriel Elizondo, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations in New York. Resolution is meant to set the legal foundation, recognizing that the transatlantic slave trade was the gravest crime against humanity. It also calls for reparations. Now, this resolution passed overwhelmingly with the support of over 120 countries. It was an initiative of Ghana.
History, as we know, is rarely simple. It is layered, it is complex, and at times uncomfortable. This resolution does not deny that complexity. It does not ignore the many dimensions of historical experience. Rather, it recognizes that even within complexity, there are moments in history that stand apart, moments defined by their scale, their systemization, and their impact on humanity. To acknowledge this is not to diminish any other history. It is to deepen our collective moral awareness.
While the resolution passed overwhelmingly, more than 50 countries abstained, most notably France.
Nous regrettons aussi
We regret that this resolution seems to establish a hierarchy amongst crimes against humanity. This gives rise to serious legal difficulties and runs the risk of creating a competition against historic tragedies that should not be compared and done to the detriment of victims.
The European Union, as a bloc, decided to abstain, citing what they called legal and factual problems with the draft.
And of course, Israel and the United States is gonna vote against it. Go through this one.
The United States just voted against calling slavery a crime against humanity. At the United Nations yesterday, 123 countries voted yes and 3 voted no: the US, Israel, and Argentina. The resolution was brought by Ghana's president on behalf of all 54 African Union member states. It passed on the International Day of Remembrance of Victims of Slavery. It called the slave trade the most inhumane and enduring justice against humanity. At least 13 million African men, women, and children were abducted and sold over more than 400 years. The resolution called for reparatory justice, a formal apology, compensation, rehabilitation, and guarantees it never happens again. The U.S. ambassador said Washington does not recognize a legal right to reparations for, quote, historical wrongs that were not illegal under international law at the time they occurred. The UK, which abstained, said the same thing. The prohibitions on slavery had not yet been established in international law at the time of the slave trade. Let that sit. The argument is, it wasn't against the rules when we did it, so why should we pay for it now? The US ambassador also said that the UN exists to maintain international peace and security and was not founded to advance narrow specific interests and agendas. Narrow interests, I guess, being 13 million people kidnapped across an ocean, 400 years, the economies of entire nations built on the labor of people in chains. And 52 countries, including Canada, the UK, France, Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, Belgium, every EU member, countries that ran the slave trade, abstained. They simply neither voted yes nor no. Ghana's president said it best. All peoples of African descent have been waiting for this day. The truth cannot be buried. 123 countries agreed, and the countries that profited most from the slave trade either voted no or couldn't bring themselves to vote at all. The resolution isn't legally binding, but it puts something on the record that took 400 years to say out loud.
Yeah, so whether they voted yes or no or abstained, justice will be served. You know, justice is going to be served whether they like it or not, whether they abstain or not, because we don't need reparations from these people, to be honest. We don't. I'm going to start off with Psalms 140 and 11. Let not an evil speaker be established in the earth. Evil shall haunt the violent man to overthrow him. Yeah, and we all know who the violent and evil man is, Esau, Edom. You know, and their time is coming. Their fall is right before our eyes right now. I know that Yahweh Shem Yahushai will maintain the cause of the afflicted. Who are the afflicted? You Israelites, you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. And the right of the poor, the Israelites. Proverbs 29:7. The righteous considereth the cause of the poor, but the wicked regarded not to know it. So yeah, they don't want to know the struggles that we went through. They don't know how we survived, to be honest. Under their hand, it was only through the Lord that we survived. You know, all the atrocities. This is Daniel 9:12. And he had confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. Yeah, which was the transatlantic slave trades and all the other enslavements that we went through, you know, under the Egyptians, you know, and this last Egypt here, that we went through a lot. By bringing upon us a great evil, for under the whole heaven hath not been done as had been done upon Jerusalem. So there's no greater atrocity that has taken place on this planet, you know, than what we went through, the Israelites. You know, no one has suffered more than us. You know, so the reparations they're going to offer is basically pointless in this time where the ship is basically sinking. Now they want to talk about reparations. I think it's a bit too late for that. Isaiah 47:6. I was wroth with my people. I have polluted mine inheritance and given them into thine hand. Thou didn't show them no mercy. Upon the ancient as thou very heavily laid thy yoke. So yeah, that yoke, you know, talking going into that enslavement, slavery, all of that stuff that we had to endure, you know, and they didn't show us any mercy, old nor young. We all had to suffer and endure the hardships that came with slavery, you know, bondage, all the stuff that this devil put us through, you know. So we don't expect them to understand our plight or be for our plight. Proverbs 12:10. A righteous man regardeth the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. Yeah, the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel, because here it is, the world is collapsing, you know, all types of wars and rumors of wars going on, you know, oil and gas prices are skyrocketing, you know, which is going to lead to increased prices of groceries and all other things, because, you know, gas is a very key part of the supply chain to transport goods and services and all of these things. So when that goes up, everything else goes up. So now that inflation is shooting up. They want to talk about reparations. What we gonna do with those useless dollar bills and notes when we get them? Because the money is losing value every day. You know, so even though it could be looked at as something that's kind from the wicked, but at the end of it, when you look, it's not profitable at all. This is Revelation 18:4. And I heard another voice from heavens saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." So all this stuff that we're seeing, the plagues, all the atrocities that's going on, all the crises, polycrises that's going on, it's gonna be something that's felt throughout society. Basically, you know, the people are gonna start to suffer more and more. We got hundreds of stores closing down, you know, and there's no work. You know, it's hard to find a job, and people are already struggling. So that's a part of the plagues, and the ultimate plague is the ICBMs that's coming to this place to destroy this place. So in between those times, you're gonna have everyday hardships, you know. Revelation 11:14, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So you had World War I, World War II, and here we are at the doorsteps of World War III. You know, the United States and Iran, they're going at it back and forth. You know, Trump is lying about he's having talks with these people, and then they come out and say we're not having any talks. So what should people believe? We're certainly not gonna believe the devil, because we know he's a liar and the father of it. So definitely not gonna believe him. This is Ezekiel 7:19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahushai. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity. So yeah, you know, in this time, when they're talking about reparations, what good is that to us when it's going to become useless in the day of the Lord's wrath? You know, you're not going to need money to do it, to eat. You're going to need to be relying on the Lord for that. You know, so now inflation is skyrocketing. They want to talk about reparations, a sinking ship that everyone is looking to be delivered from in some way. Now they want to speak on reparations. Like I said, the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel. This is red letter, Matthew 6:19. This is what you should be doing. You out there, you Israelites. This is what you should be doing. Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. That's where you want to lay up your treasures. That's where you want to put all your effort into, especially now more than ever, because the doors of mercies are closing, you know, and you want to spend your last times, you know, trying to get closer to the Lord. So he says, I'm going to continue on. It says, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through and steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart also be. there your heart be also. So wherever your mind is, whatever you're focusing on, that's where you're gonna put all of your efforts. And you don't want to do that unless you're doing it for the Lord. You know, you want to align yourself with the Lord rather than align yourself in this society, you know, and its peoples and all this stuff that's going on here. You don't want to do that. You don't want to spend your time doing that. You want to try to learn the ways of the Lord and come back to the Lord, you know. It's Luke 4:18. The Spirit of Yahweh is upon me, because he had anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He had sent me to heal the brokenhearted, which is you Israelites, to preach deliverance to the captives. We are the captives till this day, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of Yahweh. So this is the message to you Israelites. Repent and turn back to the Lord, you know, learn his ways, you know, do the things that are pleasing unto him, you know, and, you know, set yourself right, because soon to come we're all gonna meet our maker, and you wanna be on his right side, you know. You wanna be able to do what you can to be delivered. So that's it. That's all. Shalom.